Welcome to Summers in Africa. Welcome to Summers in Africa. My name is Amina Ibrahim. Welcome to Summers in Africa. My name is Amina Ibrahim, and in this video, I'll be sharing the details of how more than half of my family here from the U.S. to Africa stick around. Welcome to Summers in Africa. My name is Amina Ibrahim, and in this video, I'll be sharing the details of how more than half of my immediate family ended up moving from the United States of America to Gambia, Africa. So if you're interested in hearing the details about how our family made that transition, stick around and it's coming right up. Right now, right at this moment, my little sister is on the plane. She's making hijrah right now. Right now, she's on the plane on the way over here to Gambia, Africa. And I can't help but to remember us being there together in the US, fantasizing and talking about moving here to Africa with our children, moving here to Gambia with our children. And neither one of us had been here to visit. So both of us were moving. I did it first. I moved here without visiting, and she's coming right behind me. But today I wanted to answer a few questions that people were asking about, like how it is that I have family here in Gambia, and are we of Gambian descent? So no, actually my whole family is American. All of us are American. And I'll try to give like a backstory about how we ended up moving here to Gambia, and also like why I chose Gambia. Okay, so my grandparents, actually, they had been trying to move to Africa for like 10 years. They had been trying to move to Africa. My grandparents came basically and told us one day that they had the opportunity to move to Gambia, Africa, and they were taking that opportunity to move. So for me, I personally was thinking, you never been to Gambia, like you never visited there. You don't know what you're going into. I understand it's Africa and you want to live in Africa and you want to move to Africa. But, as a grandchild, I was just thinking it was a little unreasonable to move somewhere that you had never been to visit. Okay, so my grandparents, they went ahead and went through with their plan, and they moved to Africa. They moved to Gambia. My grandma, she wanted to come to the U.S. to help me homeschool, help me get caught up on everything, and so that I could have an easier time just like trying to homeschool my children. So that was like the main purpose of them coming back and visiting. So they ended up staying basically like a whole year in the U.S. and unfortunately, before they were able to travel back to Gambia, my grandfather fell terminally ill. My grandfather's main goal was to get our entire family to move from the U.S. to Africa. And he always said that it didn't matter what country in Africa, he just wanted his children and grandchildren to come to Africa to live. My grandfather and my grandmother, they moved back to Africa, and my uncle and my aunts went with them. So my uncle, my mother's brother, his family, he moved with my grandparents when they came back to Gambia the second time. Unfortunately, it was only 2 months that they had been back in Gambia before my grandfather passed away. So that was his wish, was to pass away. That was his dream. Like, he wanted to be buried here in Gambia, Africa. So my grandmother, she stayed here in Gambia with my uncle and his family. So, as far as my planning to move, I can say that it was like a year. It took me a year to finally come to that decision, because it was a big decision to make. It was a big decision to make. I just didn't see it being like suitable for us. I really is now, like right now, who I am today is a completely different person. from who I was at that time. So like everyone has their period where they go through their growth and their, everyone grows at their own pace. So whenever he was trying to get me and my family to move to Africa, to Gambia, I wasn't ready. And I was telling my grandfather, I'll visit, but I can't say I'll move. Like, I feel like that move is not for me. I can't, I can't wrap my mind around the idea of moving from the US, because that was all that I knew. I have been in the United States of America my entire life. Okay. So I just couldn't even think of like living somewhere else. So basically, after, I want to say like within that year, it was 1 year. So I have right now, currently, I have a 13-year-old and I have an 18-year-old that's soon to be 19, actually this year. In a few months, she'll be 19. What I was experiencing with my children was just devastating. I'll just say that. And, I seen clearly like what it meant to raise children in the US. I seen clearly like what my trials would be, what my stress levels would be, I knew like my daughter, my oldest, I raised her up to 18 years old in the US, and it wasn't fun. And I have 7 more to go. Like I have 7 more children to raise. I have one basically now grown child. And so I got really clear on my decision. It was in Ramadan, and I was making dua in Ramadan, and I just asked Allah to guide me to the best decision, because I still had not, it was Ramadan that just passed. I still had not made that decision. Like it was a very difficult decision to make, and it was a scary decision to make, because I didn't know if I was going to regret it. If I regretted it, I didn't know how we would move back, or I was just afraid of the unknown. But I asked Allah to guide me in my decision and to make it clear for me. And if it was best for me and my family, to facilitate it for us and make it easy for us. And also to turn my heart and guide me, like make it something that I crave. And I asked Allah, if this is good for me and my family, like put it in my heart to try to attain it, to go after it, to work towards it, and also like make it easy for us. And I cannot say that everything was easy, but I became clear in, this is what I wanted to do. And the reason why I'm saying I promised myself when I created this channel that I was not going to talk about this, but I just feel like I just want to be transparent, and I just want to put it out there, because I feel like it may help other people. It may provide comfort to other people that may be in a similar situation. But I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. So I was ready to move to Gambia, and my husband was not ready to move to Gambia. He was not ready to move. Like, we were in a pretty scary situation, with me being like 100%, this is what I know, like we need to do for our family. And then my husband, it was really like about work. It was about his business, because he had built his business alone, like from the ground up, and he really got established, within 5 years. And finally, when he like started hitting his goals, reaching his goals and stuff, I was like, we kind of need to leave the country, because like I'm going crazy trying to raise these kids, and trying to raise these children, the teenagers acting crazy and all this stuff, so basically, okay, so I went ahead and I said that, although I said that I wasn't going to share that. I kind of wanted to keep that to myself, but I just feel like I ran into some other Americans when I was out the other day, and she shared her story, and it was pretty comforting to me, because I felt like I had to be the only one that moved under those conditions, like that in that situation. Of course, like he ended up agreeing to the family moving, but the compromise was that he did not let that business go, and he decided that he wanted to travel. So I agreed with that. And, that's just what marriage is. Like, you have to compromise. So the reason why I'm sharing that story is because it's not going to be perfect. Like you say, if you're doing it for hijrah, if you're moving for the sake of moving to a more peaceful land, or if you're trying to move to a land that's easier to raise children, if you're trying to move to a land where it's easier for you to practice your religion, if you're moving for all of those reasons, then it has to be understood that you're going to have tests. You're going to have tests. What are we told? Like, do you think that you're going to be left alone saying that you believe and not be tested? Okay, so what are our tests? All of our tests are going to look different, So that's my story. That's my story. And, I feel like he's coming around, but I just said, like, it wasn't perfect in the beginning. Like, it wasn't perfect, and it's still not perfect now, but life's not supposed to be. When my grandparents first moved to Gambia, that was in 2019, and it was just my grandma and my grandfather. My grandparents have been the most dedicated grandparents like all of our life. They did everything with and for their grandchildren. But my grandfather knew, I guess he knew some kind of way that if he and my grandma made that sacrifice and just moved and went ahead and moved to Gambia, that he felt like it would be a higher chance or a likelihood that his family members would follow. And he was absolutely right. I don't know what changed within me within the year. Well, actually, I do kind of know. Like I said, it was becoming harder and harder for me to raise my children. It was made very clear to me, like, what my life was going to be and the trials that I would have, trying to raise children in the U.S. So that was one thing. And then also, like, Allah just turned my heart to what it was that he knew was best for me and my family. But the reason why I mentioned my grandparents moving on their own and moving, independently from our family is that's the sacrifice. So someone is going to have to sacrifice. Someone is going to have to do the scary thing. Maybe to even show other people that it can be done, or maybe to help someone else get the guts to do it. So if it wasn't for my grandparents coming, and my grandma was so miserable. I mean, she was so miserable. Like, I remember my grandfather telling me not to let more than 2 days go by that I don't talk to my grandma on the phone, because she just couldn't live like without her grandchildren. She was really suffering. But I look at that suffering and struggling that she did without her grandchildren as the sacrifice. That was a sacrifice. She endured it, and now I'm here. All my children, alhamdulillah, all 8 of my children, my sister's on her way, all 4 of hers. And my grandma, she's just like, that's not all of the grandchildren, because I still have siblings in the U.S. But my sister that is 1 year younger than me, I mean, we've always kind of like been together. And then my other siblings, like, they live in other states. But, my grandmother, she's having like now she's going to have all these grandchildren. But it was a sacrifice. So if you're moving, with the right intentions, you have to understand that you're going to sacrifice something. Like, you're going to sacrifice something. It's going to be a test. It's going to be a trial. Be tests within the blessing. There are going to be tests within the blessing, right? And I thought about the things that, people like mentioned to me, financial stability and everything. That's a scary thing. Like, even going back to my husband, like, being stable and having that business, and then thinking about starting over, and then you have like such a large family, and just, like, for some reason we see a lot of security being in the U.S. But the thing that really, really helped me like feel confident, Allah is the one that's gonna make a way. He's the one that's gonna make a means. And I just had to say, okay, I'm clear on my reason for wanting to move. But yet we know that we are going to be, that fear is going to be put there. We know that fear is going to be put there. The fear of what? Fear of poverty. Fear of poverty. Right? Fear of loss of wealth. Those are things that we're taught. Those are things that we learn, that, it's a test of your faith. It's a test of your faith. So I said to myself, okay, Amina, your reasoning is right. Your intentions are pure. Your intentions are right. Okay? So the money, this is the sustenance. The same God that was providing for you and your husband and the 8 kids in America is the same God that's going to provide for you in Gambia. Except I'm able to worship him better here. So why would I expect him to let me down? And when I really became clear with that with myself, I was like, Bismillah, let's go. That's just how it was. That's just how it was, honestly. So basically, I wanted to live in Africa, the same like my grandfather. Like, I wanted to live in Africa. And I chose Gambia because it made the most sense for us to come to Gambia, because we already had some family members that were here, that moved here from the US. So it just made the most sense to do that. And I'm really, really glad that we did, because I absolutely love Gambia. Right now, it's my family and my grandma, my uncle, my aunts, and my 2 cousins, and then my sister's on her way. And I just can't imagine, like, this morning when I was on the phone with her, I heard her waking up my nieces and my nephews. And she said, "Come on, you got to get up. We're going to Africa today. We're going to Africa today." And oh my God, just hearing those words, like, it's just so overwhelming. Like, I mean, like, we talked about this. We fantasized about it. We talked about it. We tried to envision it. We talked about business and just like so much. And, you know, I know that this video is probably going to disappoint a lot of people, because y'all wanted to hear about the houses and the job opportunities, you know, and I promise I'm going to get to that, you guys. But I just wanted to kind of have, like, share what was on my heart right now, because I'm in this moment where, like, my sister is on her way over here, and it's just so amazing. It's just so amazing.
Psycho. Oh, I don't cover in front of him. They didn't know. Sorry. Let her go. Why are y'all fighting?